Hello everyone, just getting set up. I have a little bit of time, so I figured I'd go over the next lesson in this module, iterating through collections, and it's only going to take about an hour and a half. So let's go ahead and get this going. Okay. The last lesson was collecting data with arrays, and I spent a long time on the assessment because once again I was overthinking it, and the answer was a lot more simple than I was making it out to be, as it always is with those assessments. But the more I get familiar with everything, I think it'll get a little bit easier, I hope. So here we go. Let's see. This lesson builds on the array fundamentals that you explored in the previous lesson. In this lesson, you'll practice iterating through collections and data arrays. As you start working with more data, you'll want to apply the power of loops to cycle through the arrays. Diego will reach out with another problem, and you'll need to use a loop to solve that problem. This type of work can be challenging in its own way, but I am certain that you'll be able to figure it out. He's going to send you a message in just a bit. Good luck. So we did kind of go into the loops a little bit, but not too much. So now we're going to finish this lesson up. So what are loops anyhow? Loops are used to run through a set of instructions in the code a specific number of times. With a loop, you can tell the code to perform the same task or series of tasks multiple times. Check out the simple example below. This code script just prints the number of times that the loop has run. So we have our example here. Let count to equal 5, 4. Okay. This code will log the numbers 1 to 5 to the console, but this is new syntax. Take a moment to learn how to read it. Starting at index equals 1, you can follow along. Check if index is less than or equal to the value of count to. Log the value of index, increase index by 1. Then repeat this code. Also take note of the curly brackets used here. The curly bracket at the end of the loop tells the code to run the loop again and to keep running it until the condition is false. Now that you know the basic syntax of a for loop, take a look at another example. Imagine that you are hosting a party and you want to give burgers to your guests. Okay, so I did kind of go over this portion of it yesterday. And I ran it in a replit, and so it did produce all of the number of guests with the burger for each of them. Take some time to analyze the code above. As you can see, the code is very similar to the first example, but in this case, a for loop is used to assign a burger for each guest to each guest by using the index variable. Because number of guests is set to 20, this will repeat the command 20 times. Yep, so that it's time to practice and play around. Use the replit below to see loops in action. Try changing the index value and see what happens. So we have let count to 5. Then we have our loop right here. Let index equal 1. And then we have another example. Change it to 3. And this one to 3. Okay, so that makes sense. We can kind of see how it all plays out there. Increment and decrement operators. You may have noticed the code index in the loop above. This is an example of an increment operator. This operator adds 1 to the number currently stored in the variable. The code index is the same as index. Okay, so you can also use that to increment the variable by 2, or even to increment the variable by 10. The increment operator has a counterpart called the decrement operator, which looks like this. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the decrement operator subtracts 1 from the number currently stored in the variable. Run the REPL below to see the difference between the increment and decrement. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So here we have our index operator here, or increment, and our decrement. We have our increment and decrement operators right here and right here. Okay, so this is adding and this is taking away. So 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. We can see that. I'm just going to make a note of that. The anatomy of a for loop. Before moving forward, take a moment to dig deeper into the anatomy of the for loop. So we have for, the initial expression, condition, increment expression, and then we have our loop body right here. To better understand how the for loop works, take a look at the table below and examine each piece of the for loop. It may also help to consider each piece alongside the code in the for loop example that you saw in the beginning of this lesson. For reference, here's that example again. So we have let count2 equal 5, and then we have our for, let index equal 1. So this would be our initial expression, and then our condition that we set up, and then our increment expression. And as we saw, we can have our increment operator be adding, or we can also put a decrement operator in there to take away. So we have, let me see. Okay, I'm gonna refresh my page because it looks like it's being kind of weird. Oops, okay. Did not want to go into that. Okay, so I don't know why this is. Okay, I guess we're just gonna have to view it like this. Initial expression, so it breaks down what each part of the code is as well as what it does. So we have our initial expression. This expression typically initializes the loop counter. It runs at the start of a loop. A very common example is that I, which we know stands for the incrementer, equal O. The I variable is short for index. Oh, okay. The I variable is short for index, and it's frequently used for the index counter. So I stand corrected about that. That's actually standing for the index, and it's frequently used for the index counter that you saw above. And then we have our condition. At the end of each loop, the condition expression is evaluated. In the example above, the condition is if index is less than or equal to the counter 2 variable, if the value of the condition is false, the loop is true, the loop statement executes. If it's false, the loop statement terminates. In the example above, index would eventually get to 6 at that point because the value would be greater than 5, the loop would stop. Okay, that makes sense. And then we have our increment expression. At the end of each loop, this statement is executed. In the example above, the code is incremented by the variable index by 1 each time through the loop, but it's important to note that you're not limited to incrementing by 1 for the final condition. Depending on what you're building or what the problem you're solving, you can decrement index by 1 by the same amount, or you could increment by another amount like 2. So it would just look like the index plus 2. That said, incrementing by 1 is the most common technique. Loop body. This is where we have our curly brackets with our loop body. If the condition is true, this code will run. In the example above, the loop body that executes uses console.log to display the value of the index during the loop. Okay, you're making great progress. Take a quick break if you need it, and then check out this video before taking on the practice exercises below. Okay, so don't think I need a break right now, so I'm just gonna hop right into the video here. Let me see. Okay. How would we change all of these to uppercase? Definitely covered that in a prior lesson. That was like in one of the lessons a long time ago. No, I'm just going to actually go to. Well, for the sake of the video, oops, that pops up every time. How would we do that? Now I really want to see if I can figure that out because it would be good review. Which one did we? Where was it? Maybe it was in manipulate text. Okay, here we go. So it's a method that you would add. So it would be to uppercase. But where would we put it is the question. So let me open this Replit just to kind of refresh my memory and see. It's a method though. So you might just add another council.log to uppercase, my friends. So maybe you just do council.log my friends and then uppercase. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Which one you remember?
Okay, so you'd add it right in the loop. So that clarifies that. But it looks like it updated or made every letter uppercase. Okay, so I was on the right track there with the uppercase method. I just couldn't remember, or I didn't know where I would put it in a for loop, but now I know. Let's see. Loop practice. Loop syntax is probably new and unfamiliar territory for you. It's also complicated, so it's a good idea to pause and get more practice. Here are several looping drills. They're all in the same replit below. Write a for loop that logs the numbers from 1 to 10. Write a for loop that logs the numbers from 5 to 10. Hint, change the initial value of the counter. Write a for loop that logs the numbers from 0 to 100, counting up by 100. Change the increment. So they gave hints there. The loop body should be the same for all of these. You should only need to change what's in the parentheses. Okay, so it doesn't sound too bad. Let's go ahead and open up our REPL. And let's see. Write a loop that logs the numbers up to 10. Okay, just kind of looking back. Let count to, I'm just going to kind of copy this over. Count to equal 10. And then we're going to do our for loop. So it starts out we have our for and then our initial expression, condition, increment expression, and then our loop body. So we have the initial expression, which is going to be let index equal, since we're doing it to 10, we'll do 1. And then we have our condition, which looks like this. And we have our index I did that wrong. And this is why it's good to practice this, because I have never written a loop before. It's my first time. So just kind of becoming familiar with the formatting of it and the general syntax is going to be very helpful. And then we have our increment expression. And then we have the actual loop. And the actual loop is going to contain what we're printing. So, oops. Let's see, we did that correct. So the first one is correct. So basically, this is really just a matter of copying and pasting. Now we're wanting one that logs from 5 to 10. So we're just going to change our value here and see if we can. Hmm. Oh, I was putting the wrong thing there. Okay. If we remember the initial expression, okay, so we have the first one. Write a for loop that logs the numbers from 1 to 10. Write a for loop that logs the numbers from 5 to 10. And the last one is write a for loop that logs the numbers from 0 to 100, counting up by 10. I think I made an endless loop with the number one. And it's having trouble stopping. Yeah, it's not stopping. Okay, there we go. All right, let's see if we can do it that way. Okay, I think I did this wrong. I need to go back and see how to change the incrementer again. Okay, I was doing that wrong. So it would be this one here. Index plus index plus equals 10. And this should be correct. It's not. Okay. Oh, well, it's executing properly, it looks like, because I have it here. And it's running it. Okay, I don't know if I'm... Okay. So I passed all the tests. I just had to change my declaration there because it was getting confused. So we have our first one, our first loop right here. Second loop right here. And third loop right here. Okay, so that makes more sense. If you want to check your work, you can compare your code to this solution. They were so kind to provide a solution. Let's check this out. Yep, it looks similar to what we have. The index is a little bit different there, or the condition. They didn't have to write the let this. They just did their loops. For let index, okay. And we don't have to define anything because we're just putting it right in here. So none of that silly words that I have here. There we go. So it's a little bit more simplified and looks a little bit cleaner. All right, sum loop. You can do more than just console.log from the body of a loop. In this drill, write a for loop that adds up all the numbers between 1 and 10, including 10, into the sum variable. Okay, I think we can do that. So we have our variable right there. Write a for loop that sums all numbers between 1 and 10, including 10, into the sum variable. Loop body should look something like this. Sum equals sum plus index. So we know we start our for like that. And then what comes next? So we have for, and then we have let. Index equal 10. Then we write our And we have our loop, our loopy-loop. I don't know if this is correct, but we're just going to run it to see. So that's how it would look. So you don't necessarily have to write console.log. You can just write in your loop that sum equals sum plus index, and it will print what you need it to print. Complex loop. You'll use a for loop whenever you have a set of instructions that you want to execute a specific number of times. In fact, you'll use loops all the time in your daily life as a developer. So you'll want to start getting comfortable with complex loops. Take a look at the following video to review the concepts that you just learned with a more complex example. Yeah, this section is definitely something that I'm going to have to keep going over just to be able to do it on my own. Write the for loops, so I'm definitely going to be reviewing this one a few times at least. Okay, I only have a few minutes left and then I'm going to log off. So let me see if I can get to the next replit. Use the replit below to play around with more complex example. Let's see what they have here. Let me see just how much more. So this is a lot of practicing. So we go over using loops with arrays, loops with conditionals, and then we have our knowledge check and our assessment. So I'm hoping to go ahead and finish that today. Let me go ahead. Let's take a look at what we have here. Let party people equal Joe, Julie. So this is kind of like the example that we were just provided with in the video. So we have it, that example. As you work through this demo, you'll notice a few details about this example. The length of the array is used. I'm going to close out of some of these. The length of the array is used in the condition. In this case, the condition is if I is less than the number of things in the party people array. The counter starts at 0. Take a moment to consider why that is. Why would the code be set up this way? Well, we know that JavaScript arrays start from 0, so that's why it is that way. The code accesses the array at a different slot each time that it steps through the loop. Now you'll revisit the example of the burger making machine. Imagine that you have the list of ingredients in an array and want to add them all together. Play with the example below by adding ingredients, changing the index, and maybe altering the length of the array. What happens? Okay, so we're going to just see here. So we have our declared ingredients. We have our for loop down here. And let's see how this looks. So if we change the index to 3 and rerun it, we only have lettuce, tomato. That's it, lettuce and tomato. So it cut off it started at 3, basically, instead of starting at 0. And if we add cheese, or they already have cheese, if we add pickles, can we add a little emoji in there? How do you add a little emoji? Well, let's pretend that lettuce is a pickle, because I'm not sure how you add an emoji in here. And it looks like they added that before the word. So I'm just going to move it right here. Oh, shoot. Okay. Okay, there we go. I think that we have it now, maybe. What is going on here? Something weird is happening. The keel. I'm not sure why it is doing that. I think I did something weird. Yeah, I did something weird, which is why it's good to practice. Unexpected string. Oh, you know what I didn't do is add a comma after tomato. There we go. So now we have pickle added into the mix. That was a struggle. So we did change the ingredients. We played around with changing the index and maybe altering the length of the array. Practicing loops with arrays. In your work, you'll find that it's very common to use loops to handle the many values in an array or multiple arrays. Before proceeding to the for loop drill, take a quick look at this demo. And we're almost done here. I'm just going to finish these last REPL and then I'm logging off. And I'll go ahead and see if I can finish the assessment later on today. Once I'm done with the assessment, then I will be moving on. Hopefully tomorrow, we'll see. I'm meeting with my mentor tomorrow. So I'm hoping to move on to the little next unit in the module, which is going to be covering objects. And then hopefully I'll be done with module 2 and moving into functions on Friday is what I'm aiming for. And then once I cover functions, I believe there is a JavaScript project that I need to do, like a take-home project that I need to work through. And I think it's just creating a function, and I'm not exactly sure. We'll get to that. We'll get to that point hopefully next week. And then the process from there is do the take-home project, do an interview going over a similar project that mirrors what's in the take-home project. That's going to be a live interview with someone from Thinkful. And then after that, there's a little unit that covers HTML and CSS. And I think at that point, determine whether or not I pass the interview portion and the little project portion of the JavaScript functions. They'll ask me if I want to proceed with going through the entire boot camp. At that point, we'll see. I'm just going through all the prep course right now. It might not be something that I end up going through with just because it is a big financial investment and I can't afford it at this time. I'd probably end up getting out a loan, and I want to avoid taking out any loans. So it's cool just knowing that they have this prep course set up, kind of to vet students that want to go through the program and give them a better idea of what to expect. And then, yeah, so I like going through the prep course. It's been pretty fun so far. I might just move over to the Odin project once I'm done with the prep course, but we'll see. So I will see you guys next time. I'm not sure when I'm going to go live again, hopefully soon. But like I said, I'm planning on finishing that whole module this week and going into the JavaScript functions so that I can start prepping for the take-home project and then the interview. So that's my plan. But I hope you guys are all having a great Tuesday, and I will see you in the next one.